Welcome back, crew. Today we're going to be reviewing our February game of the month, Avatar Legends. If this is your first time watching the channel, each month we pick a different tabletop RPG. It's been the whole month focusing on it, from first impressions to character building and the core mechanics of the system, and finally today with a review of our Roses, Buds, and Thorns. I stole this from one of my favorite podcasts, Not Another D&D Podcast, and basically roses are things we love about the system or like about it. Buds are things we'd be excited to see in the future with it, and Thorns may be things that just didn't click with us or we didn't like about the system. So we're going to go through and just kind of give a little overview of the Avatar Legends. If you haven't, check out our actual play. Ton of fun. We had a good time with it. I've been binging Avatar. It's on Netflix. If any of you guys have it, I went through the Aang series before the game and Korra series after the game. It is just a fun series, and I'll say them starting off with my roses of the game. Probably one of the biggest roses for Avatar Legends, as it does feel like the series. I think they did a great job kind of capturing like the feel of both Korra and Aang, the Last Airbender, and making and kind of translating that into game mechanics and keeping it feeling fun and fresh. So if you love Avatar, whether either of the series or even the comics, and you want to bring that to the table, I think this is definitely the ideal system to do it, and a fun system to do it with as well. So shout out to them for that. And kind of a cool thing along with that, especially with the PBTA style, is I feel like they did a really good job with bending. Bending is one of those things that could be really hard for a lot of tabletop systems do it in a way that feels authentic and accurate to the show. But I feel like the way they did it, where there's not like a bending mechanic, where you're able to just kind of go through and describe the fiction and have your other skills support that, was Chef's Kiss. That was perfect. It was the best way to do it, especially for a system like RPG like this one. So I enjoyed that. That was definitely a major rose for the system. And also, along with that, it's a great representation of the PBTA style, powered by the apocalypse. For those who aren't familiar, it's just really well, and I think that fits the Avatar verse really well, because a lot of times it really wasn't like the core, like the mechanics of a fight that really mattered. Whether you had Zula fighting Aang or Aang and Zuko squared off, it was a lot of the kind of the emotions and the background and conditions behind the fight, which really translates well to Power by the Apocalypse style games, where it's all about kind of your character's emotions and balance and all of that during whatever is going down. So shout outs to them for that. That definitely matches up well. I think Power by the Apocalypse are still one that I'm kind of adjusting to. That sometimes I really love them, sometimes it may not be my favorite, but I do feel like that was a good fit for this franchise to go with. Another couple of roses on that side. I do want to give them a shout outs for trying a new kind of more complex combat system with the Power by the Apocalypse style. Usually they're more abstract and a little bit more rules light. But I'm glad that Magpie is kind of branching into a little bit more of a combat focus with the RPG, and I think the Avatar verse is definitely one to try that out with. And kind of on that same lines too, another big rose for some of the cool moves they had in there, especially with the combat section. There's a lot of cool things you could do with the combat, and this really that gives it both a cinematic flair and has like appropriate like conditions and consequences to the rolls too. So definitely a big shout out. Another one I'll give to you, and this one's a little bit of a partial, because it's nice. There's enough different that if you're tired of PBTAs may not click with you, if you're just tired of the style, there's enough different with the Avatar Legends one that'll make it feel like it's a new kind of a new game, new system. On the other hand, though, it's similar enough if you are familiar with PBTA that you can pick it up pretty quickly without having to obsess too much over it outside of the combat sections, let's say. But it definitely kind of good for people that are new and familiar with this, or new to the system, and those familiar to get something new out of it too. So definitely a big rose on that side. So those are my core roses. Overall, I just really want to say I had a fun time playing it. So just is definitely, if you like the show, and if you haven't watched the show, go watch the show. It takes a little bit to get used to if you're not used to the animation style or kind of tone of it. But both the series have some amazing content with them, so highly recommend it. But if you are fans of the show, this is just a really great way to be able to tell adventures in the Avatar world. I think they did a phenomenal job of setting that up. Now, moving from that, there's a couple. One bud I want to get out before we get to some of the thorns. So this one, we didn't, and it's hard to do with the PBTA style on a one shot. They have some really cool balance options, and I think really both really cool in how they have set up with the mechanics, but also very thematic to the Avatar universe. With how your balance works and the kind of the core ideals between the different playbooks. I really wish we could have got more into that in the one shot, but unfortunately, those just really aren't the setting for that. It's usually more of a campaign feature. So that's definitely one. If I ever get a chance to run an Avatar campaign, I would love to dive into more, just because the different things they have with the balances and how those playbooks interact are really cool. And also, kind of losing your balance, I think is a great aspect for your like the PCs to be able to go through and just really kind of have some fun RP out of it and really show off the Avatar world. So definitely kind of a cool piece there that I'm hoping, if time permits and I ever get that free time, or when I retire and have more time to run games, I can get a campaign going with that and get to see that played out. So we got through the roses and the buds. We're gonna get into a few of the thorns. Not a ton with the system. There were a few things that maybe just didn't connect with me as well as I thought could have. And one of them, so I think there could be a little bit more refinement on the combat system. I'm really happy because this is one of my roses too, so just got to clear up the confusion as well. I'm really happy they went and kind of built some rule sets with them. I thought they did some crazy cool moves with it, but I do feel like it could have just some more refinement can help it flow a little bit better. I could tell, speaking with my players, and if you watch the end of the actual play, you'll get to hear a little bit about that too. But yeah, it's just, I think it was fun. I think it was great for kind of getting some flavor and RP out. But it's just one of the, it just felt a little clunky, for lack of a better way to put it. Still a great time with it, but yeah, just one of those ones I think a little bit more refinement. And this was Magpie's first try at adding a combat element, or kind of a more robust combat element, we should say, to a PBTA style game. But definitely one I would want to kind of see just a little bit of enhancement on, because I think this would be, it was fun, but I think it could be even more fun with a little bit, maybe even house rules, or just if they do more systems or updates, adding just a little bit of that extra touch to it. And kind of along that side, one of my players on that, Sue, we had a conversation. We both said either more or less along with it. Just a little bit more kind of guidelines or rules to combat. And some of the things did feel, and when I say clunky, I want a little more detail on there. How the combat progressed through their initiative felt a little bit weird. I didn't like how you had all three of the different rounds and then you resolve at the end. With that, and kind of the reason behind that, mean you could, if you were the defender, you were able to get a condition off one of the attackers or evaders, and maybe they're put out of the fight by that condition. It doesn't get resolved until round 7, whenever all the resolutions come through. So you could have somebody that's knocked out of the fight still in there, and definitely, and they explained it well and why. It is just one of those things that did feel a little clunky to me, and especially felt even a little clunkier explaining it to my players and PCs as they were going through. Didn't take away from the fun, but just definitely one of those things I kind of noticed as I was playing through that wasn't my favorite. Uh, with that too, the last kind of major thorn I really saw, and I thought they could clear it up a little bit. I had to go to the Discord for a little bit of help on this side. It's just a little bit clearer character creation rules, especially when it comes to what moves you can select, especially in what types of game settings you should select them too. The major pieces that I had a little bit of questions on, or had to go, the major one I had to go there was I wasn't sure exactly how many combat moves you start with, because one of the books says you can start with a playbook move and a mastered move, and we'll show you. The book says you could start with a mastered move, and this could be your playbook or otherwise. But going into the discords, because it was a little bit vague, it was more vague than I kind of put in that statement. It's supposed to be you start with your playbook's mastered move, as well as another additional combat move. So this is one of those things that was just a little bit unclear, and I definitely think it could be a little bit more refined there. Hopefully, and I hope they do this too. I'm a huge advocate for systems making like a one-page sheet that goes over all the cool character stuff that you need to be able to build your PC. I feel like that's the systems that have done that, like Shadows to Lancer, Blades in the Dark, Suede, Savage Worlds. Those all with those one-page sheet, it makes it so much easier for players to be able to go through and see exactly what they need and how to do so. Where some of the character rules were kind of just scattered throughout the section. That made it a little bit more difficult to create a PC. And kind of along those lines too, you probably saw a little bit of this during the character creation episode. I love how they have like the how to form your group content in there, but I'd put that in a different section than the character creation. Especially at DMing a lot of different systems, and getting your players to read can sometimes be hard. So with character creations, I always like them to have it. This is everything what you need, very easy to read and quick to read, so you don't get distracted by other things. But overall, and I know I had a couple of thorns there, I really enjoyed this system. Especially just, I like the Avatar universe, and this was kind of a great way to be able to bring that to the table and run a fun adventure. Oh, and I forgot one of my big roses too. I was looking at my list. I'm glad I mentioned that before we left. I love they do a great job of world building and providing tips for both DMs and character and players for building a character within the different eras. And they've got like 5 different eras. You got the Kyoshi era, Roku era, the 100 Year War era, the Aang era, and then the Korra era. And it just gives you a lot of great tips and tools for different conflicts and things like that, and how to set those conflicts up and who the major players are. Especially because I didn't know too much about the Roku era outside of what you see in the show. And they gave the Natsu Island, which is what we ran the adventure on, they gave kind of the premise behind that, as well as like the key players and how to set that up. And so it wasn't like an adventure they gave you, but they give you all the tools to make your own adventure and have some fun flavor. And they give different areas to where your characters and players can read and figure out what's going on in this area, what different things their characters may know about, where the core conflicts are, which think helps bring the world to life and makes it easier on the DM to set up. So really major shout out. That was definitely a really big rose, and I'm glad I remembered that before we wrapped up the video. But overall, I like this system. Definitely what I'm probably revisiting in the future. And if you're a big fan of Powered by the Apocalypse style games, this one will be right for you. If you want a little bit more of a robust combat, check this one out. I've seen some house rules on Reddit too that can even make it more fun too. So check it out, give it a try. And I'm hoping they do more with this too for other PBTA style games. I know Magpie Games kind of excels with those, so I'm hoping we get to see more of this combat system kind of continuously fleshed out and get some crazy stuff with it too. But next month, or for this month, March, we are doing a new game of the month. We are going back into Free League, one of my favorite publishers, and we are running Symbaroum. And I don't know if I pronounced that right, but this is a great dark fantasy game by Free League. Haven't played it yet, but from what I've seen, it's sure to be a lot of fun. And Free League, them and Paizo are my 2 favorite TTRPG publishers, and I haven't played anything from them that I haven't liked yet. So definitely make sure to join us in March and this weekend as we go over our first impressions, start building our PCs, core mechanics, all of that. And one of the cool things with this one too is it's kind of labeled as one good alternative in case you're looking to branch out from 5e and fantasy play. They actually even have a couple 5e modules for that system. So come through, stay tuned for the channel, and get to check out our new game of the month. But overall, thank you guys for joining us. Drop off in the comments if you've played Avatar Legends, what you liked about it. And if you haven't, kind of what makes you excited to check out the system. I'd love to hear your thoughts there. Like, subscribe. Each month we do a different tabletop RPG. And then also raffle off a copy of the PDF. Stay tuned for Symbaroum. We're actually going to be doing that live stream on YouTube. So haven't done that before, so looking forward to it. But thanks for hanging out with us. Until next time.